Let's go. Come on. Fuck. YouTube, what is up? We are back with another day. We're hitting some deadlifts today, a little bit of lower body. Took yesterday off after the post-snatch high that I was just riding. Ripping 4 hours of sleep the last 3 nights. I cannot believe I hit that snatch PR on the night of sleep that I had the night before, and the last couple nights just been stupid busy. Haven't even been a degenerate other than just my sleep schedule. Busy, stressed, working, sleeping deep, and then I usually when I get the 4 hours of sleep, I take a nap during the day, but haven't been able to get the naps in during the day. So we're just raw dogging 4 hours of sleep. And by raw dogging, I mean we are consuming 2 ghosts a day right now. But ready to rip some 1 hour deadlifts. We're going to talk about what being a good coach really means and how to survive camp. Let's get after it. We got our last set of depth drop broad jumps here. We did 4 rounds of this. With these, we did the crescendo hops again, really been enjoying those. And then some single leg plyometrics where I was just doing some basically kind of a speed skip, but a speed bound, hopping on that single leg for distance, 15 total reps there. Just trying to get some pop back into that ankle and Achilles. The Achilles, again, trying to prep that Achilles for next year to be able to handle the batting forces that we had this year. Kind of was tweaking on me left and right. So depth drop broad jumps here. As soon as I hit the ground, I'm gonna take off. I kind of like these because they rush that takeoff. I think a lot of times in my broad jumps, I'm taking a really long time to load up. These force me as soon as I touch the ground to explode out and kind of change the jump dynamics of it. They're kind of fun. I like them. Let's get it. Let's go. Then main lift of the day, we got straddle, single arm deadlifts here. Ripping these, hit a couple sets of 10 to say I did my 10 rep max for the week. And then you already know what it's gonna turn into. Some drunk sig signals. Let's get it. Woo! Let's go. So I got this Q&A 2 days ago, maybe 3 days ago now, asking how should I get better at snatching, right? And I answered a question that I will be releasing the Building Better Movers snatch program as soon as I snatch 225 and clean 315 again. So I want a little bit of level of expertise and experimentation before I release that program. It'll basically just be how I adapt what I do with all my athletes in here and how I adapt my program to include the Olympic lifts. I still don't do them a ton with my athletes just because a lot of them I really don't think are competent enough to be able to do it, and they really don't have the interest level. But I have had a couple athletes ask about the Olympic lifts, and I've been implementing them with them and like spicing them in there. So anyways, the program is gonna be Building Better Movers Olympic version. Mentioning that not to try and sell programs, although if you want to buy the program, you should buy the program. Pay for the memes, get the program for free, right? What I really want to talk about is the DM I got after that. So I mentioned this, and I got the DM. I answered it on the Q&A, got the DM of, I don't understand why people don't just go to the source. Why don't you just go to the USA weightlifting.com and take their certs and do their things? They're the ones that produce the Olympians. And I don't think the guy was trying to be a dick. He was saying, why don't people just go to the source of people that produce Olympians? And part of that is factual, right? Like, you do want to follow people that know a ton about Olympic lifting. If my entire goal was to be a massive Olympic lifter and I didn't have any athletic goals surrounded around what I do, I would also go to somebody other than me for Olympic lifting advice, right? What kind of irked me or pissed me off a little bit about that message was his ignorance of why would somebody come to me who just snatched 225 when they could go to somebody that snatched 405. And this is what you kind of see a lot with old time strength coaches. It's like, why aren't the athletes listening to me? I've done it before. Look how big, strong I am. Why aren't they listening to me? They're listening to all this stuff on the internet. And that is exactly what is wrong with the strength conditioning field. Athletes, regardless of your past or anything that you do, are not required to listen to you, as they shouldn't be. Right? You should give them a reason to believe in you. And actively doing these things should be a good enough reason for a lot of athletes. They just need to listen to somebody that has done it before them. It's just more so the anger that comes around it. These athletes are all stupid for not listening to me, rather than looking at yourself and realizing, why are they not listening to me, right? Why are they not going to the USA weightlifting website and taking the cert? Like, why are they asking me the question and not people that have produced Olympians was the question in the DM. And I think it really comes down to, because you haven't given them a reason to believe in you. They haven't given them a reason to believe in the USAweightlifting.com website, right? Just because you have prestige, just because you have athletes, doesn't mean people should listen to you or are going to listen to you. You have to make them want to listen to you. And what I told them is, It does not matter how much you know. It does not matter the knowledge. It does not matter. You could have the perfect program and the perfect understanding of everything. But if you don't know how to convey that to your athletes, if you don't know how to sell that to your athletes, if you don't know how to make your athletes believe in you through that, nobody gives a fuck. It's the same thing as a coach that reads a bunch of books but can't coach a fucking session, right? And there's so many of these coaches out there. There's so many of these online coaches that literally just make content online. And you can tell they just make content online because they're so disconnected from reality and the things that they say. They're so practical, they're so scientific in quotations. And it's like, dude, if you implemented those thought processes in the way that you're talking about it in a group of athletes, all of them are gonna tell you to shut the fuck up and they're not gonna listen, right? So I think a lot of being a good coach is not only having the knowledge, is not only having the expertise, which is a big piece of it, but it's also being a person, being a good leader, being a good communicator, being somebody worth believing in. And that is way more important than having these certifications, way more important than having the prestige, than having all of these athletes, right? And I just think it's a huge misunderstanding in our field, and you see it all the time with all these coaches that have 17 fucking certs in their bio, and they wonder why they don't have an online presence. They don't have athletes that are training with them. They're struggling to fill up the gyms, right? It's because nobody gives a fuck about that. And truthfully, the knowledge level difference between somebody that has a bunch of certs and somebody that is just pretty competent in what they're doing is not that big of a skill gap. It's not that big of a knowledge gap. I can coach an athlete to Olympic lift. I can coach an athlete to snatch, right? And it might not be everything perfect. It might not be seen in the same exact way as a master Olympic lifting coach does. But if I can get my athletes to listen to me 80% of the time, and you can only get your athletes to listen to you 20% of the time, it doesn't matter that you have 100% knowledge and I have 80% knowledge, right? So again, I don't think he was trying to be a dick. I don't think he was trying to irk me in that. I just think it's something that we have wrong in our field. It's like we have this entitlement because we have taken these certs, because we know all this knowledge, because we have done something. Athletes should just they should just listen to us. They should just appeal to our authority. And I think it's a bullshit way of thinking, looking at things, and I think it makes you very resentful of the field and the athletes because you feel like you have done everything right and you're not getting any business. And those coaches are the worst coaches in the world. You see them bitch online about the algorithm, the shadow banning, and just how dumb athletes are nowadays. I promise the athletes aren't dumb right now. You just aren't entertaining. You just aren't somebody worth believing in. You aren't somebody that can convey the knowledge. Having the knowledge, conveying the knowledge, being able to coach knowledge, being able to get people to listen to you are two very different skill sets, and one is much more important than the other when it comes to coaching. So why should an athlete listen to me when it comes to Olympic lifting? It's because you believe in me. And if you don't believe in me, don't listen to me about anything, right? And that's all the way from Olympic lifting to just becoming a better athlete, right? But if you're watching this video, you probably believe in something that I say. So if you're gonna be a coach, spend a lot of time being somebody worth believing in. And part of that is knowledge, right? If you are very charismatic, you get athletes to believe in you, but then you don't have the knowledge to back it up and your athletes aren't getting results, they're gonna leave you on the back end too. But again, I think that's a very easy skill gap to cover, and most coaches struggle in the charismatic communication styles, not so much in the knowledge styles. So let's get after it, let's go. Those are nice, let's go. Just to make sure I get my point across so I don't sound like a egotistical asshole. My brain is just on 4 hours of sleep, so I wanna make sure I get this message perfectly across. I am not saying people should listen to me or should be entitled to listen to me because I now snatched 225 and I cleaned 315, right? That's not what I'm saying with the program. I'm saying if you think there's a better source of information and you are angry that somebody is listening to somebody else, the issue is not the somebody else, the issue is you and your ability to communicate that knowledge and communicate that information to your athletes. So instead of getting pissed at Seidman for his content, you need to be pissed at yourself for not being able to create content like Seidman creates. This is especially important if you actually believe your information is that much better than somebody like Seidman, which I hope you do, I hope you do. If you believe your information is that much better than me when it comes to Olympic lifting, which I hope you do if you clean a lot and you snatch a lot, right? I really do hope your information is better than mine. You need to work on your ability to communicate that information and not get angry about why people aren't listening to you. Get angry at yourself, not other people. And I think that will change your program and better the field more than bitching and complaining about why people aren't listening to certain information sources so much better. Another cert isn't gonna change any of that. Your ability to communicate your certs will. Let's go. A couple more sets here of 10s, then we get after it. Fucking strap. One more set of 10, then we'll hit sinkies. Let's go. Final note on this rant before I finish it up. The other part he was mentioning was, why don't they just go to the people that consistently produce Olympians? And I think that is one of the dumbest ways to look at a program of if a program works or not, especially in a setting of something like USA weightlifting, where it's literally, if you are an Olympian, you are gonna go through USA weightlifting. It's like the Olympic Training Center doesn't produce Olympians, it houses Olympians. And that is so many of these combine places, it's so many gyms. I mean, even like any good athlete that I've ever worked with, any professional athlete or Olympic athlete that I've worked with, even the Division I guys at St. Thomas, they were given to me as those athletes. We did not create those athletes. Those athletes have it, man. It's an appeal to authority, survivorship bias. For every one Olympian USA weightlifting, and again, I'm not saying USA weightlifting is bad. I'm saying the thought process of looking at something of they have produced so many Olympians, and this is any gym. They have, let's go combines. This place has produced so many first-round draft picks in their combine. No. They get a bunch of first-round picks and they work with them for the combine. And that'll be the same with us. Any pro athlete that we work with, any college athlete that we work with, it's the same thing. We were given a pro athlete, we were giving a college athlete, or we're giving a high school athlete with that level of potential. They were gonna do that regardless of what we did with them. So results in that sense mean very little. It's the same as me trying to, I was a good pass rusher in college, right? I had really good results on defensive line. And it's just because I had something that I understood when it came to it. I couldn't teach pass rushing in college to save my fucking life. And so many people were asking me to teach them pass rushing, asking me to teach them defensive line moves because of my results on the field, because of how many Olympians I produced, right? It's a poor measure of your actual ability to coach and teach and have the understanding of it. I had a motor, I had a body that allowed me to pass rush, right? They have a certain amount of athletes that are just Olympic weightlifting athletes, right? It's not necessarily producing it. Most of the time it's housing it or having it, and it's a poor judge of your competency in the field, in anything. And again, I really do believe USA Weightlifting is probably a really good organization and knows a ton. And I'm actually interested in getting their certs and doing their stuff, right? It's not about USA Weightlifting. It's about strength coaches' thought processes of, again, why aren't people listening to me? Look at everything I've done. And it's a silly way. It's look at everything you haven't done. Look at all the athletes that you haven't turned into Olympians. Look at all the athletes that you haven't turned pro, right? And if the 5 pro athletes that you trained with somebody else, would they still be a pro athlete? Would they still be a first-round draft pick? 99% of the time, yes. So it's a poor argument. Silly way to look at things. Last set of 10 here. This is going to be a fucking send. Let's get after it. All right, that's gonna be a last set of 10 on that arm. Last set of 10 total, last set of pulls on that arm. That elbow's feeling janky. Let's send some singies, let's get it. These feel really good. I really like the pushing feel. It's a little bit more of a, I mean, not more of it, it's definitely way more of a squatty deadlift. Very quad based, so better at it, but still pulling something today, which is great. Let's get after these singles. Woo! Let's go. Dude, even with the strap, my grip is an absolute fucking pansy ass here. I'm not getting like timed up enough, and the front's dipping down, back staying up. We gotta lock the fuck in so we can pull something decent today. Otherwise, we're gonna get bodied. We did 275 for 10, perfect. So I was sitting in the middle. It was good. 315, could not balance that baby out, and it was fucking up my hand. So hopefully this set's a little bit better. Ooh. Woo! Let's go, that was better. Right hand, let's go. All right, probably final set here because I'm losing circulation in my hand every single time I pull because this strap's ripping me apart and I don't hook grip because I'm a pussy. So let's get it. Here we go. Woo! Let's go. All right, secondary lift of the day is gonna be a 10 rep max. Horse stance Zercher here. This one destroys your groin like nothing you've ever experienced. If you have hip issues, I would absolutely recommend this one. Feels nice. A great balance between a strength and mobility stimulus, and really looks cooler than a horse stance Zercher. You get people at the YMCA looking at you like, what the fuck are you doing? And you're saying, I'm building a weapon of a body. Let's go. Let's go. So before we hit this next set, I got a couple athletes that just left for football camp or just finishing up football camp. And their first year out of football camp, college, it's probably going to be the hardest 2 weeks of most of their high school careers' lives, especially sporting wise. I'm not going to talk about like trauma or like anything hard that actually happens in life. I'm just talking about physically. Most kids are vastly underprepared for what a college football camp is going to bring them. Most of it's psychological. You just went from being the biggest fish in your small little pond to being the smallest tiny tadpole in the largest ocean of NCAA athletes you could ever imagine, with coaches whose jobs are on the line, need you to develop, need you to play, need you to perform, and the pressure and stress ruins and destroys people. And then you talk about the physiological damage camp does with coaches that are just running their athletes into the ground. So what can you do as an athlete to survive football camp? Couple tips. Anytime you can sleep and get a nap in throughout the day, absolutely do it. So many of these athletes ask me like extra mobility work they can do, extra strength training they can do, extra foam rolling, how can I recover better? Dude, in that downtime, I know it makes you look like you're lazy, I know it makes it feel like you're not doing as much as other people. Those naps will absolutely save you. You will recover so much faster. And with the amount of workload that is done at most camps, it's almost necessary, especially if you're in a dorm for the first time and you're not sleeping very well at night. Find a spot to sleep. Even if it's 20 minutes a day, it'll make a massive difference. Second is food. You gotta be eating. I know there's gonna be times where you don't wanna wake up to go to breakfast. There's gonna be times where you're not feeling very hungry after practice. So you don't wanna eat a ton before practice. I know the timing of everything isn't money, but you gotta eat food. There's so many athletes that will lose 10 to 15 pounds in camp. I just had one athlete come back and I told him he had to eat. I told all this message and he's like, dude, I just wasn't hungry. I'm like, dude, you're 160 pounds. You went into camp at 180 after all the hard work, right? Like you're massively depleted from the person that you started camp at, and that can't happen, especially going into a long season. So pig out and nap a ton. Eat everything the camp has to offer. And when we get into season, we get to the long-term plans of things and things start to slow down, we can start to get into more of a diet plan and thinking about these things that you need to be eating. If you have the money to afford a protein shake, rip a protein shake before practice, rip a protein shake after practice, rip a protein shake in your meetings. Absolute game changer for how you're going to feel, and you're not going to deplete. And I think, especially if you want to start climbing the roster charts, or especially as a freshman, just climbing other freshmen, if you stay at your weight, you're not there to make some huge physical changes during those 2 weeks, right? Like, again, a lot of athletes get in that grind mindset of, oh, I'm going to start working out, I'm going to do really hard at the camp and impress my coach. If you just stay the same, well, all these other athletes are losing 20 pounds, you are going to look like a Greek god by the end of camp, and that's something that you can absolutely control by just eating your food. Third, gotta study the playbook, man. You gotta be reading the playbook, especially if you don't know what the fuck you're doing. Watching film, reading the playbook, talking to your coaches, getting rid of that psychological stress of not knowing where you're supposed to be, not knowing what's going on, is gonna be an absolute moneymaker for you to just be able to take a deep breath, form on the field, and you'll look so much faster. Again, a lot of times in college football camps, it's not a speed game. You want to be fast going in camp, you want to be physical. But if you don't know where the fuck you're going, you're gonna look slow, you're gonna look not agile. I remember my first year at camp, my coach literally asked me, he's like, how much do you lift? And I told him my numbers. He's like, dude, you look like you lift half of that. And it's like, yeah, because I have no idea where I'm going. And I'm like questioning everything, right? So I wasn't able to use my strength because of a technical tackle issue. So study the playbook. As annoying as it is, as basic as it is, the more that you can understand where you're supposed to be, the more your physical qualities that you spent all offseason. And again, people watching these videos, you've spent a lot of time working on those physical qualities. You spent a lot of time working on that agility piece. You spent a lot of time working on the speed piece. You've been following the Yoakum strength stuff. You've been crushing that aspect. But if you can't utilize that on the field because you have no idea where you're gonna go, it's all gonna look and be for naught. So don't waste your time. Don't waste all of your off season doing that stuff and then not reading your playbook, not studying film when you're there. If you do those three things, as simple as they are, you will be in so much better shape than 99% of freshmen that go to a camp. So survive camp, take your naps, eat your food, study your playbook. I know that's basic. I know that's super annoying stuff, but most freshmen are not doing it. They just get too overwhelmed. They fall behind, and when they fall behind, they freak out. Don't freak out. Just stay the pace. You don't need to do more. You don't need to ask me for extra lifts. You don't need to do more mobility stuff. Just do those basic three things for those 2 weeks, and then after, we can work on things. After, we can add things. After, we can grind. But if you focus on those three things during, you're gonna be so far ahead of most people going into a football camp. So let's hit another set here. Let's get it. All right, running out of time, interest levels, and rants. We're gonna make a big jump here. We're gonna hit this for 10. We're gonna get out of here. Let's go. Fuck. Oh man, that was a send. Definitely wasn't wide enough to count as a horse, but we got it done. Whew. Couple accessories, then we're out of here. Let's go. Then in between those Zerchers, we've been hitting these front high wall kicks here. Really like these for the hamstring, hip flexor mobility that they require. I think there's something kind of innate about the ability to high kick and side kick. Works the hips in a lot of cool ways, and I think it's just a cool movement option for athletes to have while getting a really nice hip stimulus done. I like having the barbell here so it keeps you above rather than drifting down and then kicking up. Holding on to something for the stability aspect here, and we're kicking up, holding for a little bit. I'm leading with my heel. I'm thinking lead with that heel, get that leg as straight as possible and hold. Juju Mufu loves dynamic high kicks for flexibility and mobility reasons, and I kind of see why. These are really nice, 10 of them. Like, woo. Let's go. Got some reverse hyper isos, then we're outie. Let's go. We're just finishing up single leg reverse hyper isos here, 1 minute hold each way. We got no weight on, but we're still using this just to give us something to actively drive through. But these are freaking spicy. You're not gonna need a ton of weight here for this 1 minute hold. Everything's gonna give out before then. Promise you, it's a money maker. Hamstring and glutes were cramping that first time. Back got a good little pump in. Let's get it. Holy shit. That one is spicy. Hit the other leg, call her a day. Let's go. All right, that's a day. Say goodbye, get out of here. Let's go. That's a day. Gas tanks on empty. Felt really good about those Zercher squats. I need to stop 1 rep maxing those suitcase. I'm gonna lower this just a little bit. Those suitcase deadlifts, every time I do it, just pisses me off because I'm not able to grip it, and then I feel like I don't get a great leg stimulus in. But we made up for that leg stimulus with those Zercher horse stance squats. My adductors felt like they were torn in half. Really a moneymaker. That was the keeper exercise of the day. Those depth drop, broad jumps felt really amazing, and finished up with those high kicks and some isos at the end. Solid little day for 4 hours of sleep and like 12 hours of sleep in 3 days. Hopefully we get 8 hours tonight and we reset a little bit, but I appreciate you guys watching. Just had a podcast with Young Athlete Training. Amazing. It'll be out Saturday. Can't recommend that one enough. He is an absolute monster. I've been trying to get him on forever. Work finally settled down for him. Finally got that podcast done, and it is a banger. It's like an hour, 30 minutes about talking about long-term athletic development and how to implement the play constraint-based model to college athletes. So if you're interested in that, I would definitely put notifications on for Saturday so you're ready for that. Appreciate you guys watching. Keep chopping wood.